Hey, what's up guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be making a full damage system. Very simple full damage system. It's basically just going to be checking if you're falling for a certain amount of time. If you are, it's going to damage you. If you're falling for longer than that, it will damage you further, stuff like that. This is actually, I saw this from Matt Asplund, I think it was. I saw it from, may have been Gorka Games, I'm not 100% sure, but this is one of the best ways to do fall damage, so that's actually what we're going to do. If you'd prefer to watch Matt Asplund's video on it, you can. However, we are going to implement this a little bit more differently to how he did, with a bit more randomization to the fall damage. So what we want to do is, obviously, when we set up these damage function calls, we had a input for damage amount, and we need to keep that in mind for when we're making this. So first thing we want to do is we want to create a new variable called full damage amount, being a float, of course, because that's what we're working with our things. And before we move on, we're just going to create some leg variable. We'll call it leg values. Even though it's not really a value, we can always change that later. And for the full damage, we will just create a new one called full damage. And when I mean new one, I mean category. So full damage will be set to 0 always. Now, we need to do this in event graph because we actually use something called a retriggerable delay, and I believe you can't use them in functions, so we're not going to worry too much about those. So to get to do this, we need to call a event. So event on movement mode changed. So what this is doing is this is like when you change your movement mode from like swimming, driving, walking, sprinting, whatever. This is just an event to detect that, I believe. So if we call off a branch from the main thing, and we need to get off the new movement mode, this is an enum. So we will call the equal enum. We need to call equal enum here, as that is what this is. We drag that into branch, and on the drop down we need to change this to falling. So as you can see, I said about swimming, flying, stuff like that. So we need to change it to falling. And oh, didn't mean that, just want to compile and save. Now, to set up the first fall damage, we've got to make sure we have plenty of space here, because we might even use this whole space up. So off of true, because we're falling, we're going to call that retriggerable delay I mentioned. Now, we're going to set these values up, but we're going to leave them. Even though I keep banging on about magic numbers, I know you're probably getting bored of it. We need to just set up so for the default values. So for example, when we're falling for 1 second, we want to do this. And that is get a branch and check, are we falling? So how do we do that? We drag off the character movement, just like so, and we get is falling. It's as simple as that. And it'll be target is movement interface, or nav movement interface. And it will look just like this here. Now from here, we drag in our full damage amount, set that to true. Now you may think, okay, so if I'm falling for 1 second, I'll set this value, but what if I want to set it to a different value if I'm falling further? That's where retriggerable delays come in, and we can actually make that go further. So let's now check. Okay, how do we set it, or how do we set this full damage amount? Now, there's a few ways we can do it, and the way we're going to do it is we're going to get a random float in range. So we need a default value for this to happen. So for example, we'll do, if you're falling for 1 second, it's not too high, it's going to hurt, but it's not going to kill you. The minimum we'll do 5, and the maximum we'll do 10. And just like so. Now, on the full damage amount, what we're then going to do is we're going to then do that retriggerable delay I mentioned. So drag off the main pin, and we're going to do retriggerable delay. Now you see this white line coming across here, that's obviously the node connection, and you don't really want this being all the way over this way when creating it. So what you can do is you can double click and just place this node like here, for example, double click again and place it here. So what this does is it just neatens out the code a little bit and hopefully makes your area look a bit nicer. Now, for this retriggerable delay, we need to set it as a lower value. So if you're falling for another 0.5, so basically you're falling, yes, okay, after 1 second, damage them this amount. However, check if they've fallen for another 0.5. So only when they've landed do you set this fall damage amount. And we'll do the on landed event soon. So when you actually land, it will stop doing all that, and you can actually damage the player. So now we want to do the exact same thing. So we can actually copy and paste all of this here, just like so. Connect that in, and it's now going to be obviously exactly the same. So we're just going to move these so it's a bit more level. And now we need to do, I'm just going to drag these because this is going to really annoy me if this is not right. Do apologize. Right. So now we need to change these values again. So for example, I like to do, let's say 15 to 20. So if you're falling for another 0.5, the damage is a lot worse. And let's say, there we go. Just straighten that out a little bit. Now we can copy and paste the exact same thing. And we'll do that there. Connect that in there. Now, if we're falling for another 0.5, let's do another 0.5. So if you're falling for 2 seconds in total, that's going to be a pretty high drop. So we're going to do probably 25 to 30. And then once again, duplicate this. And we'll do it here. This time it's going to be a bit more harsh. So if you're falling for another 0.5 seconds, then you're going to do, let's say, we're going to really up it. We're going to go to 50. And we're going to do between 45 and 60. And then we're going to do one final one where if you're falling for another 1 second after that. So let's do 1 second. So in total it will be 1, 2 seconds, 2.5, 3.5. If you're falling for 3.5 seconds, we're going to delete this random floating range, and we're just going to set it to 100 so it fully breaks your leg. And there we go. So now we actually need a way for these damage values to come in and be used. So we come over here, just under here, and we'll do event on landed. So as it says, it's when your character lands, all to do with the like velocity values and stuff like that. It will check from when you're falling and stuff. And what we're going to do is we're going to get the full damage amount. And we now need to call the damage twice. So we've obviously got two values in here. We've got damage left leg, damage right leg. So first one, damage left leg, call that in. And damage right leg, just like so, and just like that. Now if you want to make it a bit more uneven, what you can do is you can actually set the full damage amount but have two full damage amounts. So full damage amount left leg, full damage amount right leg, and you can then do the random floating range again, exactly the same values, and they'll be a bit different for when you do it, but for this one we aren't going to worry too much. Now once we've called these, we're actually going to set the full damage amount back to 0, because we obviously we don't want to keep it the same, or if not, we're going to then start taking like 100 damage every time we fall. So we've now got that done, and I believe that is everything for the fall damage. Now obviously these aren't quite high enough, so what I've done is I've added some blocks up here. If you want to do the same thing, just grab a block from the scene, so for example one in the corner, grab the block, and then hold Alt and just drag, or use the movement things. So I'm going to put one really high up to make sure we can do it. Now, if you don't know how to do these or spawn on these, just right click on the block and go play from here. Now you'll spawn up here, and let's jump and give it a go. Just like so, there you go. Now you can actually see how the health value now has a like some like it's got decimal points. We don't want that. We want to keep it a round number. So what we're going to do is we're going to fix that quickly. So let's go to content, go to UI, go to stat bars, and we'll go to the 600 health value, and we actually need to go to our graph, And in our graph, we're going to get the overall health amount, which is in here. And then on the to text, what you want to do is open up this drop down. Now you'll see a maximum intra. It's not even the right one. I don't even know why I was saying that, because it's not even the right one, and now I've just made myself look like a right idiot. Anyway, maximum fractional digits, in the very bottom one, set that to 0. So now that won't have any effect, or these won't, oh, I'm going to go a bit higher now. It won't have any difference. So for example, if we now go from here, play from here, and we'll drop, it should, there you go, 560, which means we got damaged 20 on each leg. So let's go a bit higher. It might not even be high enough. I might have set the values a little bit off. Let's make sure we don't hit anything, and we fall all the way down, just like so. And we obviously got damaged quite a bit there, just over 50 each. And just to test this, what we're going to do is we're going to actually change these. So it's going to be 0.2 each time instead, because I think 0.5 is a bit too much. You can go through, and I think Matt Aspland explained this in his video. So if you're coming off that one, it'll be exactly the same what I'm about to say. But if you create these delays, what you can actually do is you can have like a certain height you want to make sure a certain damage set to, and time that jump from there to see how much damage you should have. So we'll jump from here, see what it's like, and boom, both legs have been broken, and now we're walking really slow. So now we've got it all set up. Just to recap what we've done, so we created full damage by basically looping every time to see how far we've fallen by time, and then we've set the damage. Like I said, we can always go in and create 2 different values for right leg and left leg for the full damage amount, and we can set it that way. But for now, we're just going to do one singular amount, and maybe in a future episode we'll change that up a little bit. But guys, that is all for the full damage system, and yeah, thank you for watching, and I hope you guys enjoy the next episode. Peace out.